tool, and I've actually used it myself. So I'm applying to a lot of summer internships right now, and this has been really, really helpful for me to just kind of keep track of that, because it can be a lot and you can kind of just get lost in the application process. So to begin, the moving pieces, we absolutely understand that there are many moving pieces to a student's life. I am a student. I'm getting my master's degree, so I know firsthand there's projects, exams, term papers, internships, all of that, part-time jobs, whatever you're doing, we know that it's not, you have more than just your school. And so it's when it's time to think about what's next, it might be a little bit scary to add another moving piece to that. So that's why we kind of came up with this. So hopefully it makes it a little bit easier for you. Organization is key. So applying for jobs can be scary. Like I said, there are a lot of moving pieces. You need to remember, what was that job title? Where am I applying? When did I apply? And so it's essential to remember more than just, I applied at this place. You need to know kind of the nitty gritty and the little details of it. And so that can be difficult, but keeping track of it doesn't have to be. So a couple things to think about. Where did you apply? What was the specific position? When did you submit your application? Did you include a cover letter? Have you heard back? All of those things are important. And just kind of having those details where it's all in one spot for you to look at makes it a lot easier. So if you're able to go back and see, okay, I applied on this date and I haven't heard back yet, like maybe it's time for a follow-up email, or I got a rejection from this one. I'm just gonna put that in red so I know I don't even need to go back and look at that. It's done, and I'll just move on and move forward. So there's a lot of different aspects of it, but putting it all together and just being able to see it in one spot does make it a lot easier. And I know that firsthand. I've been doing it. That's kind of what I did a lot over break, was just apply. And so it was nice to be able to have a spot where I could see all of that. So piecing this together, what does that look like? We came up with a job application tracker. I created this and then kind of worked with a few other people to finalize it. And so we provide this job tracker that makes the application process easy for you. So as you can see here, we have a lot of different moving pieces together. And then you're able to fill it in however you please. So we've got the job title, the name of the company, where is that located? A lot of times, a lot of positions right now are going to be remote. So it's nice for me to see, okay, this position was a remote position, but this position was physical in Chattanooga. And then the application URL, so that way you can kind of go back. A lot of companies ask you to make an account on maybe like their Workday or their like external recruiting website. And so it's nice for you to be able to go back and find that pretty easily and just see the status of your application. Keeping track of the application date, that's really important. So that way, like I said, okay, it's been 2 weeks, I should follow up, or okay, I only applied 8 days ago. Or maybe you kind of forgot about it and you went back and looked and, oh my gosh, I applied in September. Why haven't I heard back? So that's really helpful as well. And then keeping track of whether you got that application confirmation email, because that ensures that your application actually went through. So once you get that email, just a quick Y or N. And then the application method. So sometimes you're applying straight through LinkedIn. Sometimes like I said, you have to create an account on their website. So keeping track of where that is. And then keeping track of whether you were rejected, whether you ended up being ghosted. That does happen. It's unfortunate, but it is important to kind of make note of that. If you followed up and you still haven't heard, well, maybe it's time to just cross that off and move on. There's no point in continuously trying to get a hold of somebody who's just not going to put the effort in back for you. And then if you got an interview request, it's important to put that date on there. So that way, when it was requested, and then you can add more. This is just the basics. So I've added, if I got an interview request, then I've added like when that interview date is. So I added when I was requested and then when I ended up scheduling that interview. And so these are just the basics, but obviously you can add whatever you would feel necessary, and then kind of personalize it and tailor it to your specific needs. We also have one for graduate schools. So even if you're not applying to jobs right now and you're looking at maybe continuing your education, it's a similar method. We offer this tracker as well. So I used this as well when I was applying to graduate schools, and it was really helpful. So you have the program, because maybe like program names are different per school, then the school name, the location. Sometimes some schools require the GRE, sometimes they don't. Maybe it requires the MCAT, whatever it is. And so the test required, the program director, a lot of times you're going to be communicating with that program director. You want to make sure you have that name correct. So that way, if they do call you, you're not calling them by the program director's name of some other school that you applied to. You want to keep that information straight. Application date, when it's due, and then when you did apply, that's important to know. So when I was looking at grad schools, it differed. A lot of them were due March 15th, but I did have quite a few schools that were December 15th or January 1st. And so it was important for me to differentiate that. So that way I made sure, okay, I need to get these applications done first, and then I can move on to the ones for March. Application method, whether that is just sending an email to the program director, whether that is through GradCast or the school website, that's important to remember. So that way you can go back and keep track of your application status. That email, whether you got an interview request, whether you were rejected from grad school, whether you were waitlisted. So that way at the end you can see, okay, I've been waitlisted in these programs, or I was accepted to these two, waitlisted at these two. What do I think is worth it? And so it kind of just keeps that all together, like I said. So utilizing this tracker will enhance your organization skills, which is a competence that many employers are looking for. So if you're keeping all of your things together and you're being really organized, that's going to encourage you to be a little bit more diligent. And that's really important. And that's a skill that employers want. They want people to be organized and diligent with their work. Organization alleviates stress. So our tracker does make the process less scary. I'm using it right now. It makes me feel a lot better about it. And it enhances your organization skills, which, like I said, that's going to benefit you later on. So yes, applying to jobs is scary, but just typing in this information and being able to go back and look at it rather than panicking and being like, oh my gosh, I don't know where this email is, or I can't find, or I can't remember the name. You have all that information there right in front of you. So if you'd like your own copy of your job application tracker or the graduate application tracker, please contact us. You can just send an email or even put in the chat with your email, and we'd be happy to send that your way. But other than that, if there's any questions or if you'd like the job application tracker, please let us know.
So Ashton, thank you for that information. I'll say, Alex, you are the only non-staff person in the room, so this is really for you. So if you have any questions, it's really just a conversation with a bunch of people who are quote experts in the space. So we're happy to answer those for you. But I had a question from the presentation. Ashton, you mentioned Workday, and that's an ATS, that's an applicant tracking system, right?
Yep.
How do you, I mean, that's a different session. So we'll talk, ATS is something else, but we will, I guess I'm trying to figure out, my question is like, how do you really keep track of that? Like it's so hard to know what's going on when you've had to apply through an ATS. It's so impersonal. And
Yes.
so like, is there, or do you keep extra notes, or how do you go about that?
Yeah, I've ran into that problem actually, because there are a lot of companies that use Workday. So then like when I'm trying to save the password or something to try and log in, it gets it confused with another company's Workday, because like Workday is the basic like tracking system, the ATS, and then it's like, you know, tailored to that company. So I do keep extra notes. So I might just put in there like what email I used for it. But there have been a few, not all of them. I think it depends on kind of what they have for their specific ATS, but I have had some where I can like log back in and see that application status. Whereas other ones, it just says like submitted and waiting for review, and it just never changes. And so I think it kind of depends on the company, but as long as you're making a note of, okay, I use this email to log into this, or if you have like a sticky note with passwords or something that you can be able to differentiate, okay, this person, this Workday has this login, this Workday has this, and then you're not getting it confused. I think that's really helpful, because I have ran into that where I've applied to like 5 different places and it's all different Workdays. And so just being able to like kind of go back in and see what I did is helpful if they offer that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Alex, what kind of questions do you have?
Well, I don't really have any questions specifically about that. I would like a copy of the tracker, please, if you don't mind. I'll put my email in the chat here in a second.
Yeah, I'd love to send it to you.
Okay, thanks. But yeah, I think that was useful, because it would definitely get confusing when you're applying to several places, trying to keep track of everything. So
yeah, absolutely. Would you like the job one or the graduate school, or both? Which would you?
the job one, please.
Okay.
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah, I think it's so important to stay organized, especially when you're talking about entry-level jobs, because there are so many people applying for those that it's and you end like even as an individual like you end up applying for so many
Yeah.
yourself that like it's real easy to get like all of your applications jumbled. So like going back and keeping notes, especially when you're talking about something like a government entity, like if you've applied and you're one of like 250 applicants for one
Right.
of these like entry level jobs, it may take a while for the company to get back to you, long enough that you have probably forgotten that you applied for it. It's one of those like Ashton was talking about that, oh, I applied back in September and they're calling me now, like, wait, what was this job?
Yeah.
And so having that tracker there where you can pull it up pretty quickly to refresh your memory before you engage with them so that you're not saying to them, wait, what was this job?
Right.
And so that way you're setting yourself up to appear as a better candidate. So like staying organized from the beginning is ideal.
Yeah, and I think that's important too, with like different job titles. A lot of times, like entry positions might have just like a little bit different wording. I've noticed that with applying to internships, like maybe this one's a talent acquisition intern and this one's just a basic human resources intern. And so you want to like be as specific as you can. And I think that's really important to be able to go back and say, okay, this was the job title at this place. And I don't want to get it confused and just say that, I'm getting it mixed up with something else. You want to make sure that you're on top of things. So yeah, I think that's really important.
Yeah, remembering names is always tough for me too. Like if I had talked to a person or emailed a person, just having their name down there would be helpful too, because I end up, having to go back and search through emails and stuff, trying to figure out, okay, who was the person from this place?
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, okay, well, I emailed them in October, so let me look through all of my October emails. Whereas if you just have the email, you can search it or you have their email right in that like Excel spreadsheet. So it does make it a lot easier. It's helped me a ton. I've been applying to things all semester, and it's just really helped me keep it all together. So
Yeah, that's one of those things too. For me, I have a really hard time with people's names and titles and all that kind of stuff. So I'm right there with you. A lot of times I will make little quick notes, especially if it's a more traditional experience where you've met in person and you've got their business card or something. It's really smart to kind of write a quick note on the back to say like, we met at this place. We talked about this thing, like some like quick things that will help jog your memory. And when possible to have those like, if there's like make a notes column in your tracker and stick them in there. And then you can, when you follow back up by email, you can drop it in there and be like, it was so fun to hear, like see pictures of your dog. How's Chappie doing? Like whatever.
yeah,
And like humanize yourself. And so there's lots of those like extra ways that just staying organized is helpful outside of what you would think. It's not just like keeping a spreadsheet for the sake of keeping a
yeah.
spreadsheet. It's making yourself more prepared so that so you can pull those things out and use them to advance yourself when needed.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and those kind of things would probably help them remember you as well. So if you
Yeah,
had
make you stand
mentioned
out.
something specific. So
That's exactly right.
all right, well, thank you.
Thank you so much. I'll send that application tracker right after this.
Okay, sounds good.
Cool. All right. Well, I think that's all we've got for you today then, Alex. If you want to take a quick break and just take a look over the sessions that are coming up at 11:30, and then we'll see you in one of those rooms at that time.
All right, sounds good. Thank you.
Thank
Thanks.
you.